Lexical units include letters, numerals, special characters, tabs, spaces, returns, and symbols. Identifiers. Identifiers are the names given to SQL objects. You learn to identify valid and invalid identifiers. Recall that keywords cannot be used as identifiers. Quoted identifiers. Make identifiers case-sensitive. Include characters such as spaces. Use reserved words. Using literals. A literal is an explicit numeric, character string, date, or Boolean value that is not represented by an identifier. Character literals include all printable characters in the SQL character set, letters, numerals, spaces, and special symbols. Numeric literals can be represented either by a simple value, for example, -32.5, or in scientific notation, for example, 2e5 means 2 times 105 equals 200,000. Formatting code. In a SQL block, a SQL statement can span several lines, as shown in example 3 in the slide. You can format an unformatted SQL statement, as shown in example 1 in the slide, by using the SQL Worksheet shortcut menu. Right-click the active SQL worksheet, and in the shortcut menu that appears, select the Format option, as shown in example 2. You should comment code to document each phase and to assist in debugging. In SQL code, a single line comment is commonly prefixed with 2 hyphens. You can also enclose a comment between the symbols asterisk and asterisk.
SQL provides several predefined functions that can be used in SQL statements. Most of these functions, such as single row, number, character, data type conversion, and date and timestamp functions, are valid in place SQL expressions as well. The following functions are not available in procedural statements: decode, group functions, AVG, min, max, count, sum, stddev, and variance. Group functions apply to groups of rows in a table and are therefore available only in SQL. Statements in a place SQL block. The functions mentioned here form only a subset of the complete list. Consider a scenario where a manager needs to assign an employee_id to each new employee joining his or her department. When you want to define an employee ID, you may have the following requirements. 1. You do not want the employee_id to be 0. 2. No 2 employees in the organization should have the same employee ID. 3. You cannot remember the employee ID assigned to the employee who last joined the organization so that you can increment it by 1 and assign it to the new employee. 4. Sometimes, you may not want the employee ID to start with a single digit, depending on the context requirement. The usage of sequences in place SQL expressions is similar to that in SQL statements. You can create a sequence once and use it multiple times in an application. You create a sequence by executing the create sequence statement as shown in the slide. After creating the sequence object, you can access the value of the sequence through the nextval in currval pseudocolumns. In the place SQL block shown in the slide, we use nextval with the my_seq sequence twice. First, we assign it to the variable v_new_id and output the value. Next, we use it within the dbms_output put_line function call. Observe that you see a new incremented value the second time. Being procedural gives place SQL the ability to nest statements. You can nest blocks wherever an executable statement is allowed, thus making the nested block a statement. If your executable section has code for many logically related functionality to support multiple business requirements, you can divide the executable section into smaller blocks. The exception section can also contain nested blocks. The example shown in the slide has an outer parent block and a nested child block. The v_outer_ variable is declared in the outer block and the v_inner_ variable is declared in the inner block. The v_outer_ variable is local to the outer block but global to the inner block. When you access this variable in the inner block, place SQL first looks for a local variable in the inner block with that name. When there is no variable with the same name in the inner block, the variable in the outer block is accessed. Therefore, the v_outer_ variable is considered to be the global variable for all the enclosed blocks. Examine the date of birth that is printed for father and child. The output does not provide the correct information, because the scope and visibility of the variables are not applied correctly. The scope of a variable is the portion of the program in which the variable is declared and is accessible. The visibility of a variable is the portion of the program where the variable can be accessed without using a qualifier. Scope. The v_father_name variable and the first occurrence of the v_date_of_birth variable are declared in the outer block. These variables have the scope of the block in which they are declared. Therefore, the scope of these variables is limited to the outer block. A qualifier is a label given to a block. You can use a qualifier to access the variables that have scope but are not visible. The operations in an expression are performed in a particular order depending on their precedence, priority. The following table shows the default order of operations from high priority to low priority. When you are working with nulls, you can avoid some common mistakes by keeping in mind the following rules. Comparisons involving nulls always yield null. Applying the logical operator not to a null yields null. In conditional control statements, if the condition yields null, its associated sequence of statements is not executed. Follow the programming guidelines shown in the slide when developing a place, SQL block to produce clear code and to ease maintenance of the code. For clarity and enhanced readability, indent each level of code. To show structure, you can divide lines by using carriage returns and you can indent lines by using spaces and tabs.